God save. Give more power to the people. There's some people up there holding everything. The rage was in the streets. It was everywhere. Give more power to the people.
He was saying something over and above that of any other leader of that day, while the other leaders were begging for entry into the house of their oppressor. He was telling you to build your own house.
People always talked about freedom and what that means. During that time period, being black in America meant that you didn't walk down the street with the same sense of safety and the same sense of privilege as a white person.
Poverty in African American communities can be traced back as far as the transatlantic slave trade, where white slave owners monopolized wealth and generations of African Americans were born into families that had little to no capital. The Jim Crow laws of the 1960s also disallowed African Americans from accessing wealth and limited their mobility through acts on laws such as segregation. This meant that the financial capital that African Americans had was systematically lesser than their white counterparts, and as a result of that, it had intergenerational impacts on their social capacity.
Our attack was not only against white supremacy, but it was also about capitalism. We actually thought that the way in which capitalism created a working class that was kept absolutely destitute was wrong.
Studies came out saying that children that didn't have a good breakfast in the morning were less attentive at school and less inclined to do well and suffered from fatigue. I mean, there was all sorts of scientific reasons to have a good breakfast in the morning. And we just simply took that information and a program was developed serving breakfast to children.
The paper was the lifeblood of the party. That's how we survived. We sold the papers, 25 cents back then. It cost maybe 12 cents to print it. The other 12 and a half cents went to the various chapters and branches. That's how we basically survived.
And obviously, photographers were drawn to the Panthers.
The Black Panther Party.
Many people know of the Panthers.
You might say that we exploited the Black Panthers, but I think there's a lot of evidence that they used us to their advantage. They were able to establish their legitimacy as a voice of protest.
Cultural capital can exist in three forms: in the embodied state, which is in the form of long-lasting dispositions of the mind and body; the objectified state in the form of cultural goods, such as products, which suggests your class; and the last one is the institutionalized state, which indicates one's position in a class objectively. It could be a credential, for example, a college degree, which signifies a specific skill set or taste.